Hello and welcome to Upper Pen. My name is Dakota, and today I'm talking with R.A. Salvatore about his Dao of Drizzt book. I will say it wrong. I'm sorry.
There is no wrong.
After 30 years, there's no more wrong.
35 and there never was.
Oh. So thank you, Bob, for joining me.
It's my pleasure.
For people who haven't seen it yet, what is the Dao?
It's kind of a long story, but I'll give you I'll just talk fast instead of giving you the Reader's Digest version. I wrote the 3 books, Icewind Dale, first, and they did not have the essays in them when I first did them. Then I was told that people want to know where he came from. So I thought I'll do first person because it's going to really focus on that one character. And I love Rogers the last name, and I love Amber. So I said, I'll just do first person. And then I realized first person would never work for me and wouldn't work for this book for 2 reasons. First, he's a baby. He's born in the book. It's hard to do first person coming out of the womb, you know? And second, I like doing big battle scenes. And I love the choreography of everything going on around. You can't do that first person. You can't. So as kind of a compromise, I did the essays to begin each section. I did this Drizzt essay that can be, it can be a short poem or it can be a 4-page essay. Just whatever. Sometimes it relates to the book. Other times it's just about life in general. It's like he's writing a journal. And for years now, I've wanted to collect them together. We did collect some of them together many, many years ago for the Menzoberranzan on box set. There were like 20 of them at the time, or 10, or whatever. Now there are 100. Because we've done 39 books, counting the one next year, and most of them have 3, 4, or 5 essays in them. A couple of them didn't really have any because they were about other characters. But anyway, so we put all those essays together in one book, and they did it so it looks like a journal. They did the deckled edge, which, by the way, anytime authors should know this, that anytime you have a book that has a deckled edge, expect a whole bunch of 1-star reviews at Amazon from people saying their book is damaged. It's true. It's true. My wife sells the books through signed copies through rasalvastore.com. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And she's had people say, something wrong with my book. There's something wrong with my book. No, they actually pay more to make it like that. But anyway, so they put all the essays together. It's like the Journal of Drizzt.
I really love the Dao because my favorite parts of the books, and I know everybody's are always the fight scenes, but mine are the journal entries and like these inter chapter sections, because they just add so much life to the books.
I think they just make you know who the character is so much. That's why I do them in my Demon Wars books as well. Or I'll do letters of something to get you in the head of the characters. I think is always a good thing, because books are written differently now, or at least mine are, than they used to be in terms of point of view. I think most books use many points of view now, a lot more than they used to, and that's because of television and movies, which change point of view all the time. It's the way the readers or the consumers of the information have come to take in information. There's many different points of view. So because of that, having these little essays that really do a deep dive into the heart of the characters almost makes up for the fact that the whole book isn't from the character's point of view, or isn't focusing on the character's point of view, I should say.
Yeah, so I really like and understand why it has to be in second person or even third person-y. I guess that's more second person, but
I wouldn't even know. I hate grammar. I do. I passed the class because I had to, and then forgot everything they taught me.
Yeah, I'm not good with grammar, but I did get an MFA recently, so like it's drilled in right now. I'm sure in like 10 years.
That's why I quit my MFA.
Yeah, it didn't do me a whole bunch of good, but but I like how the battle scenes go, and I like that you can have those other points of view if you're not in first person. And I feel like first person is very a young adult point of view books lately.
Yeah. I also think that you can get more into the bad guy's point of view and why. doing the books the way I do it makes me follow every character in the book more than just by giving them a name. I'm still going to have the ones like when I did my Demon Wars books, the 7-book series, and the first couple of books, first 3 books, I needed someone to just come into the room, almost like you'd see. Remember the old Camelot play?
Yeah.
My sister was a page in Camelot in her high school production, and basically the job of the page in these formats, Henry V, I think, is kind of like that, where someone will run in off screen and tell you what's going on. And so I needed someone to do that with the monks. And so I had this monk, Brother Francis, running in and just telling what was going on. So he's just a name, Brother Francis, Brother Francis. And then when I wrote the 4th book, all of a sudden Brother Francis told me who he was. And the book became as much about him as about anyone else. And it's like the most complete character arc I've ever done on a character, I think, in one book. And it happened organically from a name. I don't like having a lot of characters who just have names and then you can forget them because you'll never see them again. So when I create, friends or enemies of Drizzt, I go down the road with them. I want to know why they are the way they are. Not all of them. I mean, I know Loth is a demon. That's why she is the way she is. I don't have to explain that. But I'm still having fun explaining that she doesn't do what people think she does for the reasons people think she does them. Anyway, that's in the new books. But yeah, so it's just the essays really got me into his head. And I didn't, like I said, they weren't in the first 3 books. And then I went back and put them in the first 3 books when we did an omnibus edition, I think for the Science Fiction Book Club, actually.
Yeah, so I've only ever read the omnibus version.
Yeah.
So I've never
You
seen
have
it.
to go back to the early printings to see the ones that didn't have the essays.
It's got to be weird without them, because I feel like you'd lose a lot of internal stuff.
Yeah, I haven't actually heard from anyone who's read them without them and then with them and made a comment on it. It'd be interesting if there aren't a lot of people that have the versions that don't have the essays.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything really but the omnibuses online. Yeah. So they're just like the easiest.
A long time ago. You were probably what, 5 when I started writing?
Around.
Right, say you weren't even born.
I was born in 91.
You weren't even born.
I am new to the R.A. Salvatore book club.
It's amazing to me that most of the people who start reading my books are younger than the books. Because a lot of them start with the early Drizzt books, right? And those books are 35 years old.
So they read like old fantasy, though. They read like classic fantasy in my mind. And now the newer ones with like the Starlight Enclave, this series, I can't remember what it's called. The Way of the
Drow.
Yeah. So these ones are much more modern.
Drizzt has gone through an evolution because I've gone through an evolution.
Yeah.
I was a very different person in a lot of ways. I was 29 years old. I was 28 years old, excuse me, when I wrote the first Drizzt book. And 28, you think you know everything. And then you're 63 all of a sudden, and you don't know, you never knew anything. And you think you're supposed to tell everyone the way things are, and now you're at the point where, no, your job is to get people to ask questions and find their own damn answers, because it'll be different for everyone. But even aside from that difference, just the maturity and age difference, it was a very different world back in 1987. I had 5 older sisters. And I readily admit that when I started writing these books, I was sexist. And so were they. Because we all thought that's the way the world had to be. And, one of my biggest breaks was Mary Kirchhoff didn't think the world was that way. And she was my first editor, and she's tough as nails and smart as can be. And you don't argue with Mary if you expect to win, because you won't. And I learned a lot. And so I like to think that I'm growing up in the books the way Drizzt is growing up in the books, and the sensibilities change. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. I wish more people would realize that you're allowed to grow. Like, you're allowed to make mistakes and not know everything and then learn.
I wish a lot of the people who refuse to grow would understand that.
Yeah, me too.
And I wish a lot of the people who think now that they came out of the womb enlightened would realize that if they had grown up in the 1970s, they would look back at the things they watched and the things they said and the things they did and cringe.
Yeah.
there aren't a lot of shows from the 1970s that you can watch now and not have a couple of moments like this, right? Where you're covering your face because it's cringeworthy. But that's okay. That just means if you're cringing at things you did or things you liked back then, all that means is that you're probably a better person now. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
My son said it the best to me, because he said, you're not woke, you're waking, and everybody should be.
Yeah, I like that. You're continually waking.
But it still amazes me how many people read the early Drizzt books and are surprised by some of the things I say now. Because I don't think the ethics have changed.
Well, even the first series it's a female-centric society, but they're all kind of like mean.
I have 5 older sisters. Inspiration. Yeah. No, I didn't create the Drow. I did not create the Drow society.
Right.
I created the structure of it. And I based it on the Godfather.
Oh, okay. I could see that.
I created the structure of the Drow society in the Forgotten Realms. But I didn't, the matriarchal thing, the Spider Queen thing, the snake-headed whips, that all came from the old Gary Gygax modules from the late 70s, early 80s. And from all, that stuff was already in the shared world when I joined the shared world. But I got to create the city and come up with the structures of the houses and the rules of the way things worked, which was fun.
I mean, it seems like everything I know about D&D is a mix of you and Tolkien. Like, these are the things I know.
Good company. He's the reason I'm a fantasy writer.
I mean, he's the reason everybody wanted to play D&D, right?
Yep.
So it seems like you have shaped D&D just as much in the last 30 years as maybe 35. You felt like, 35.
It blows my mind. I have to keep saying it to remind myself it's been that long. Yeah, it's incredible to me because I just wanted to have one book with my name on it. I was working in finance, and I was building a career. I had little kids, and the books didn't pay anything back then at all. It was work for hire. And it still is work for hire, but the contracts are way better now because you can force that when you get a little power. But I love working with them, but I never expected anything like this. But yeah, I think that, what's the first question everybody asks when they hear there's going to be a D&D movie? Is Drizzt in it?
Yeah. He's not in this new one, is he?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, they're not using any of my characters. I had nothing to do with this one. I hear it's pretty good, though. I heard from people I trust who've been behind the scenes that this is going to be a really good movie. I hope they're right. Better be.
Yeah.
I don't want to be disappointed.
I mean, I'll still go watch it. I'm not going to lie.
I'm getting very disappointed with lots of things lately because I think some, I'll call it sequels and long-running series have gotten lazy.
Yeah.
I think the golden age of television is passing us by. If we're careful, we'll lose it.
Yeah, it's also just strange because it feels like most of it's just a cash grab. So,
that term always hits me funny because it is a cash grab, but they're businesses.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
I just wish that there are some things I just see are lazy. And I blame the fact that the writers always get pushed out of the way for people who think they know better.
Yeah.
Being a writer and being able to tell a story in a logical way that has a satisfying journey is not something everybody can do. It's a skill and it's not a skill that almost anyone can do until they've done it for a while. So, yeah.
Would you ever turn the Dao or Drow books into a series or a movie or anything?
Well, I mean, it's not up to me. I
suppose.
Forgotten Realms owned by Hasbro.
Oh yeah, they did just buy Wizards of the Coast, didn't they?
Oh, 24 years ago. 98.
Was it that long?
Or 22 years ago? Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Ugh.
But now Wizards has a lot of autonomy now. And I know there's a lot of interest for something. I mean, I hear all the time that they're talking, and I know Hasbro's really interested in doing it.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of promises to me that if they do it and they're using my characters and hopefully storylines to some degree, that I would be involved, which would be kind of cool. I would welcome that challenge. But I don't know. It's not up to me. I worry about things I can control.
Fair.
I'm just happy that people are still reading the books.
I was surprised when Timeless came out because I hadn't seen one in a little while, and I was like, "Oh, are you still writing them?"
It was 3 years. Yeah, Wizards of the Coast Publishing.
Yeah. So, and now they're published through Harper Collins, right? Harper Voyager.
The excellent Palmerico, wonderful editor.
Was it weird going from like Wizards Publishing to Harper Publishing?
No, it wasn't, because, well, first of all, Wizards is still very much involved.
Okay.
They just stopped publishing books. And a few years ago, about 2.5 years before Timeless came out, I went up to Wizards and I was expecting to sign a 10-book deal. Just kind of the last, I figured it'd be the last contract I signed. Okay. This was like 7 years ago. I was 55. I said I'll be 65 when I finish the last book in this contract. And that'd be good. Then I can decide if I want to keep writing or not. And they said, we're not publishing books anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. Where'd that come from? And there are a lot of reasons that I don't know. That's way above my pay grade. But then a couple of years later, I called my agent and I said, you know what? They've had some changes up there, and the new people up there, they may be receptive to this. They've gotten a lot more powerful within Hasbro. On their own. They've been given, the ability to take some chances, not just with Magic the Gathering, but to stretch their muscles a little bit, because D&D is back and it's hot.
Yeah.
And I said, we should go up there and we should see if they'll let us license the character and go somewhere else. Because we knew they didn't want to put a new staff in to start a new book line. Well, I still wish they'd do that. But so we went up there and they were great. They said, this sounds like it'll work. Let's do this. And we came up with mutually beneficial terms, the things that made us both happy. And we shopped the book around and we wound up at Harper Voyager. There were several really great offers for it. Harper won it. I got to work with David Palmerico, who's phenomenal. I love working with that man. He's brilliant. But Wizards still gets to see the book. When I send the book, like I'm writing the book now, I'll be done hopefully in November, the third book in the series. It'll go to David and it'll go to Paul Morrissey up at Wizards. We'll show it around, and Wizards gets input, because I want to be on the same page as them with their world.
Yeah.
I don't want people to read my books and not see the connection to the realms. And they're great. Wizards been absolutely fabulous. I've been with TSR, then Wizards, since 1987, and with the exception of one incident back in the early 90s, it has been one of the best, most enjoyable business relationships I've ever had. It's way beyond that. I consider them my friends.
That's fantastic that you've had such a good relationship with the publishers that you've worked with.
They're book people.
True.
I'm a book people. Yeah, no, we're all working from the same direction. We're all pushing. It's like D&D, right? It's a cooperative game. It's not a competitive game.
Yeah, that makes.
It's been wonderful. I have zero complaints. I've been blessed. My career has been a joy. I get to spend a lot of time with my family. I got to watch my kids grow up. You're not going to hear me complaining about it.
Well, we appreciate you. So, thank you.
That works both ways. I mean, I love hearing from readers. I try to answer them all. I get way behind all the time, but I try. Yeah.
One of the things that I wonder about, since you've been writing for 35 years in this world, with these characters, do you ever get burnt out?
In the middle of every book, I feel burnt out, whether it's these characters or any other character. That's true. I start a book and I'm all excited and I think I know where it's going, and it takes some twists and turns. Then we get to the middle of the book and I'm really anxious to finish it. because I know this ending is going to be awesome. And then who would ever read this crap? But no, do I get burned out on the characters? Not at all, because they've changed. Like you said, they've grown as I've grown. Drizzt is my sounding board. He's how I make sense of the world. I throw monsters at him, put him under tremendous pressure, and hear what he's got to say, because he's answering questions for me. So no, I'm having fun. I mean, I'm working on a webtoon with Purpa, who's this amazing writer, and with an artist named Ryan. I don't know if the names are out there yet, so I don't want to give too much away. But regarding Drizzt's daughter, Breezy, and they're writing, and I'm just saying, hey, you know, this would have happened here. I'm kind of keeping them in tune with the books, and it's like I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast. I'm already thinking I can write some books about her in the future, maybe. Who knows? No, this is the writing remains a joy.
That's great. And I love how in your forewords you usually say something to the effect of like the characters take you where they want to go.
I'm a pantser. I've said this in every interview. Now that I've heard the terms, I love them. Plotter and pantser. I'm a 100% pantser. Well, 98%. You can't be 100% because you have to give them an outline. Then I throw it away after they pay me. Yeah, no, it's a journey. And I write books the way other people read books. And I think that's why I enjoy it so much.
It feels more organic, I think, to let them do what they're going to do. Otherwise, you kind of, I don't know, sometimes it feels forced with other books.
For me, it is organic. And people say, well, you're not going to kill so-and-so. My expectation of a character dying is about the same as a reader's. So if the reader doesn't think like Drizzt is going to die, I probably don't think he's going to die either. We both might be surprised someday. Who knows? It is totally organic, and that's the way I want it to be. I mean, it's not. I can't say totally. There are times I have an inkling that something's going to happen, or I plan something to happen. But if it doesn't go there, I don't worry about it.
Yeah. How do you make sure that the fight scenes and all of so like they're kind of big stories? There's usually a long journey and then a big fight, but how do you make sure that these fight scenes are choreographed right? They seem like there's so many moving parts in them.
Well, I paid my way through college as a bouncer. I played hockey my whole life, and I watched sports, and not just like, you know, the big four. I watched things like Torval and Dean dancing the bolero at the Olympics. I believe in the artistry of physical intelligence of a Michael Jordan. You know, you watch that, and if you've ever, like, I was a boxer for a while with some friends in high school, but I trained a little bit with martial arts. I put my kids in fencing lessons so I could learn about fencing for my Demon War books. But if you watch sports and play sports, and you begin to understand things like balance, and how balance is, you know, everything, like in a fight, whether it's swords or fists, where your feet are and how balanced you are is going to determine the strength of your blows and how well you can dodge or take a punch. But you learn these things, and so I just put them in, and then I try to mix it up. Like Glacier's Edge came out this summer, which is the second book in Way of the Drow, and the last section of that has one of the wildest, craziest battle scenes I've ever written, because there are so many different types of combatants in it, from monsters on both sides to magic users to druids and so there's all this different, to a demigod at one point, and it's just this wild, like 50-page battle scene that just goes on in all these crazy directions. And yeah, it's hard. You have to keep a lot organized in your mind. But I told you I was a math major, right?
Oh.
Like, I'm very organized up here, and I just watch it happen and I write about it. It's kind of cool.
Okay.
Sometimes I have to be reminded who died, so they're not in the next book, but it's kind of cool.
Well, you have people for that, right?
Yeah, usually my sons, and usually by accident. I was writing, I think, the 6th Demon War book, and my son, Brian and Gino come by, and Gino looks over my shoulder. He goes, "Oh, so and so finally became the father abbot of the church. I said, yeah. He goes, he died 2 books ago. I'm like,
Guess you have to rewrite that part.
yeah, yeah. It happens. I'm human.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it.
One of the things that I've been reading a lot of lately is game lit or lit RPG. I've been playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and so I want to see more kind of that in reading.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, you're playing at the right time.
I know Spelljammer just came out, and I'm so stoked. We've got a nice campaign going.
and the tools. We were talking before we came on. We were talking about the technology, how it can work against you. The tools for D&D, D&D Beyond, Roll20, things like that. They're fabulous.
They're pretty spot on.
They're pretty spot on, and they make the game. These are things that actually are tools. They work for you, not against you.
They're helpful tools.
We now play D&D around the table or with our laptops.
Yeah, I guess most people bring their laptops with them to the in-person sessions, but I like paper. Yeah,
we played paper on the whiteboard. We now use laptops and the big screen TV, and we're having a blast.
I mean, it works, right? So it feels like you were the beginning of kind of like game lit with these books that are based in D&D.
Oh, I think Margaret and Tracy would hit you if they heard you say that.
Why?
Dragonlance preceded me.
So I suppose
Dragonlance was huge, still is. Dragons of Deceit, they're great. They're,
and then
they're who I want to be when I grow up. But I think they were there before me. And Ed Greenwood was there before me. I think Ed Greenwood's 6 months younger than I am. And when I found that out, because he's looked the same since I met him 33 years ago with that big gray beard. And I said, wait a minute, how can you be my age? You created the realms supposedly, what were you, 8? He said, well, I was 6 actually. So, I think there are plenty of people who predate me with that. Like Gary Gygax wrote a bunch of books. There are a lot. How many Dragonlance authors were already on the New York Times bestseller list before I wrote The Crystal Shard? I think I've had a nice run, and it's lasted longer than most. But no, I can't. So I think a lot of people now, because like Dragonlance just finally came back for a couple of books here, but since the Drizzt books have really been the only show in town for the last 10 years. Well, I guess 7 years, but still, they've been the only show in town. So yeah, I think I'm a big part of it, but I don't want to be there were people there before me.
Well, so I love that, like, I can definitely see how you've influenced this emerging or continuing genre of game lit, because there's all these elements of what I feel like is the Drizzt books in the stuff that I'm reading lately. Like I just started one about a kobold trying to become a dragon, right? And it just feels very Drizzt-y at the beginning.
I think I think these, the books have lasted.
Yeah.
I think that when I look at the numbers still for like the Homeland and Crystal Shard series, those books are still, they're resonating. I'm shocked and thrilled and humbled and inspired all at once. But yeah, I think that with the new generation, 5e came out and there was this massive resurgence. Twitch came out. A lot of the people that are coming into Dungeons and Dragons now, I was probably one of the foremost authors in the genre of the subgenre of Dungeons and Dragons literature.
Yeah.
For a lot of people your age, younger than you certainly, and even people a decade older than you, I was one of the ones that they would have picked up first. Right?
You were the first one I picked up, even though we had Dragonlance books at our house. So,
see, Dragonlance was the first one I picked up.
Ah. Are you working on anything right now other than the 3rd installment?
Yeah, I'm working on a new Demon Wars series, actually. Demon Wars is the world I got to create myself. So I did the 7-book series. Then I went back 800 years in the past and did the Highwayman series and the Saga of the First King. So then there are 11 books. And then a couple of years ago, I got to do the Coven, which takes place in a different part of the world, a little different take on the gemstone magic. And one of my favorite characters ever is Owlin the Witch. She's amazing. And the Coven ended in a really cool place. And now I'm writing a new Demon Wars series that should be coming out probably 2024. Next year is the big 35th Drizzt year, so we'll probably wait until the year after that. First book is done and in. Second book is almost done. I don't write at the same time. What happened is I wrote a book and then I didn't like it because it was half going on over here on the coast and half over here with character that I wanted to continue writing. And they all comes together at the end, but I said, I'm not giving the new guys and gals enough of a spotlight. I really need, this is where the fun of it is. So I separated them, and the first book became all about them, and it's one of the most fun books I've ever written. And I love the new characters. And yeah, so I'm back in Demon Wars.
I'm excited. That's great.
And it's pirates.
Pirates.
I get to do all different kinds of battles. I have an arms race going on at sea between magic and weapons, but there are no cannons, so I come up with alternatives, and I'm having a blast.
I can't wait. That sounds really fantastic.
So I came downstairs giggling every day, and my wife was like, "What did you do?" I thought, "Nothing. Just write the book."
Nothing's happening. Nothing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
I'm sure everybody
finally being able to get this done.
Oh,
my schedule. They're killing me.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot going on lately for everybody, it seems like. This is that time of year.
The world's waking up, and everybody's waking up with it, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. This has been great. And if anybody in the audience hasn't read the Drow books, I'm not really sure how you got to my channel. Not super sure, but you could come join us. Anyway, thanks and have a great day. Bye.